Copy and use this simple 4-step workflow to optimize your paid ads today. What makes this workflow special is that we do not look at data in channel silos, but we rather split the data into campaign objectives, making cross-channel performance more effective because we actually compare Meta and Google campaigns on the same goal settings such as prospecting and don't look at channel level data on one platform only. Let's jump right into going over all of the 4 steps before we take each step separately. We will guide you through each of the 4 steps. We start with the campaign type definition and show you how to make proper campaign name conventions in order for you to filter. Then we will define the campaign KPIs for each of the campaign goals. And then we go on the 3rd step to identify your winning and loser campaigns by the North Star metrics that we set. And on the last step, we go over the actions that derive from the identification. All of the steps are also documented in writing. You have the deep dive article afterwards. Let's start with step 1. Making the campaign distinction and defining the name conventions. What's important on the 1st step is that we have a clear split between prospecting, in this case it's acquisition for new customer, between customer remarketing. Here we are not speaking about retargeting of users that come from acquisition campaigns to your website. Here we talk about customers that already purchased in your shop and that we want to trigger to purchase a 2nd, 3rd and 4th order. And then on the 3rd distinction, we define the campaign goal for branded campaigns, as you see here. What this looks like in our tool is that you would make a filter on a campaign name that is very specific to those 3 goals that we just showed. The first filter, and here the recommendation would be that you set a clear identifier. In our case, we call this ROAS for prospecting. And with this identifier, you see in the campaigns here, PRS, 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 we will be able to filter out all the campaigns that are having the goal for prospecting in your setup. How to do this? You click on filter, add filter, and then here you can say dimension is campaign and contains, which means it has the value in the campaign name. And here you go for PRS, as we can see over here, to get all of the prospecting campaigns. Once we have done it, we see that there's a few prospecting campaigns on Meta and TikTok, and we need to check if there is some other campaigns in here that we want to take out, or if this is really on prospecting only. As we see, it is very clear. However, we see that brand is included as well. What I suggest is that you, in that case, also take a different filter, and that is does not contain. And here you use the word brand in order for you to take out those campaigns that also have a brand goal on the targeting. As you see, we have the brand campaigns out of here, and now we are looking only at prospecting campaigns, which is the great first step. Then, because now this example has multiple markets, I always suggest that you focus on one market, and therefore I would also set a filter on a market and make that filter work. Then a second action would be to actually only take those campaigns into consideration that have costs live, which means more or equal to 0.1, so that you don't have 0 spending cost campaigns in here. Yes, this looks good. Now we have all of our prospecting campaigns for the German market. We see this here, DACH, yes, and this is prospecting across TikTok and Meta. Great. The next step is to save this work set and give it a name. We call this prospecting DE campaign optimization, or just campaign. That's enough. Now, this process we will repeat for the other two campaign names, which would be campaign goals, customer remarketing and brand. Let's follow the same logic. We will actually set new filters. This time we don't want to take out the prospecting campaigns. We would rather take the remarketing campaigns, as this is part of our name convention. I will do that. We will set it up and let's check together. Yes, we see remarketing. Maybe we go and take this filter out completely to check how many campaigns there are available, to have a quick glance if the filter is also correct. That looks great. So let's build the filter again. Contains REM at apply. Great, now we have the remarketing campaigns in here where we have costs for the German market and everything else is taken out. We do the same logic. We go save as work set and we go for remarketing DE campaign, so we know on which level we have set the filters. So last one, we go and take out remarketing and we actually change this filter because we don't want to take out brand. We rather want to have brand campaigns only. Let's check what this looks like. Boop. Yes, so which ones we want here is non-brand. You already see there's something specific. We want the brand ones. And the same logic applies for these ones here. So here I would take the minus brand identifier as a filter in order for us to make sure that we only get the brand campaigns into our view that we built for the optimization. And as we see here, we have brand, 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 no search non-brand in here, which is exactly what we want. Great. Now, same logic, we go save this work set and go in brand, DE, campaign, so we know what we are filtering based on. Great, so the first hurdle is taken. We have set a prospecting campaign view for the German market, for remarketing and for brand, exactly like we wanted to do here in the campaign type definition, so that we have the three goals split. And as you see, there's multiple platforms involved, so we have a great cross-channel measurement here. Now, our second step is the definition of metrics we want to include for each of the views that we just built for the three campaign goals. Let's start with the prospecting campaign. We will go and select the overview we've just built for the German market for prospecting, and we'll start to build the overview here. As you can see, we have revenue excluding new marketing costs, ROAS, AOV, new orders, CAC, click-through rate, conversion rate, and sessions. Via the metrics button, you can set this. We start from the ground up and we'll include all of these metrics in here. This is quite a quick process. Let's check together if we are following everything that we had in the overview. We had acquisition costs, revenue, XVAT, new, we already had it. ROAS, new customers, boop, boop, boop. AV costs, then we had click-through rate, we had sessions, we had conversion rate. What are we missing? CAC, click-through rate, conversion rate, new orders, AOV new, ROAS new. Yeah, AOV new, ROAS new, and we had new orders. That's exactly it, right? Yes. Now we just apply and we save the changes. You click here, save changes, prospecting, DE campaign, done. And now we have the overview as specified in our define KPIs here. We do the next one the same way. So here we focus on customers instead of new customers, because we look at customer remarketing and brand, and we will include those KPIs that we have specified here. One very important KPI that I also include in these overviews for customer analysis is the share of new customers. So you understand if your targeting is actually going for returning customers or if you're spending money on more expensive new customers. So the share shouldn't be high, it should be low. So we go over the same logic. We will select those views that we have built before. Remarketing. Let's start with that one. We go over the metrics tab, and here we select all of our customer focused metrics. We have revenue x VAT, we have marketing costs, we have the ROAS, we have the AOV, orders, AOV, orders. We have the new share of customers. And we have the cost per order, click-through rate, conversion rate, and session. Cost per order, click-through rate, conversion rate, and sessions. Yes. We save this to the remarketing, and then we build the same logic for the brand campaign setup. We do this again. We have revenue, ROAS, AOV, orders, new share of customers, boop. Then we have the cost per order, click-through rate, conversion rate, and session. Click-through rate, conversion rate, and sessions. Yep, click apply. And then we go and save the new changes to the view. That's it for step one. We have now the 3 campaign goals filtered by the campaign name identifier. We have set for each of the goals the corresponding metrics we want to look at to make a decision later and make actions on the optimization. Now we will go for step 3. Building our winning and loser systems for the views, which means taking out those campaigns that are below or above the target we set for the customer acquisition cost for prospecting campaigns and for the return on ad spend for customer remarketing and brand. For those two, we look at a broader KPI ROAS because there actually is a mix of new and existing customers depending on your specific brand strategy. So as an example, as a very mature company, you might be looking at a different share of new customers coming from your brand activities versus returning customers in comparison to a new brand that just starts to enter the market and that actually aims to get a lot of new customers by brand activities. One thing that I want to make sure before we start is the definition of your targets also depends on the strategy. If you're going heavy on growth, your customer acquisition costs might be a customer acquisition cost that is in correlation to the CLTV that you know you are achieving over your retention metrics. In this example, we will just fix the customer acquisition target at 50 euros and say that everything below 50 euros customer acquisition cost is a winning campaign and everything above 50 euros is a losing campaign. For the ROAS, we will do the same thing. We will take a fixed ROAS targets for both of the channels to understand if these are loser or winning campaigns for remarketing and brand. What we will do, we will use the filter again, but this time instead of going for the dimensions, we will use the KPI that we set our North Star metric for, which is customer acquisition, and say less or equal to 50. Which means those are our winning creatives. Now that we do this, we should also make sure that less than 50, which means we save a new workspace and call this prospecting DE winning CAC lower 50 euros campaigns. And make sure that we do the same thing for our loser campaigns. So we actually go change it here, less or equal, more or equal to 50, save, and save a new work set. Save new work set. Boop, boop, boop. Call this loser. Yes. So we see here that all of the customer acquisition costs that are above 50 are in this campaign. The ones below 50 are in the winning setup. Now, what I recommend, because here we will look next at a time period, that for the analysis you select at least 1 week, depending on the amount of spend you have running on your prospecting campaigns per day, or 14 days. I like to take 14 days because that gives me more accurate data to have a better validation of the campaign performance. If you use this toggle here in the bottom, compare with, you are able to compare the selected period in the top with the previous period on automation, so that you can actually see how you compare to the 2 weeks before the selected period. And there you get then an understanding if you're improving on the changes you made during the last 2 weeks, yes or no. Next step, we now need to take action based on our campaigns that are winning campaigns and losing campaigns for prospecting. And we need to take the filters for making a winning and losing campaign for our ROAS campaign goals, which is remarketing and brand. Let's do this real quick together. For remarketing, we are here, we see that we just have a couple of campaigns in here. So I would say we set the goal to 2.5 as a ROAS, or we say above 3 to make it very easy. We go for the filters again. We add a filter. We go on the KPIs and say the return on ad spend, more or equal to 3. We add this filter and we make these our winning remarketing campaigns. Save as new work set. Whoop. Remarketing. DE. Winning. Größer. ROAS 3. RIP. Größer 3. Yes. Now we do the same for brand. More or equal to. We go a bit higher. We say 6. Whoop. Save new work set. We call this brand. DE winning ROAS größer 6. Zack. Yes. Now we need to go the other way around to find our losers. Yes. And we save as new. RIP. Sorry, yeah. Brand. Losers was 6. Yes, let's check together. we have winning größer, bigger than this. Yeah, we need to change it. I overwrote this, but that's okay. Yeah, save changes. Now we go to remarketing and get our winner. Yes. Equal to less or equal to 3. And we save the last one so that we have this done as well. Yes. Great. Now that we have saved all of the work sets, we can check here again. So we have remarketing, losers below 3, winners above 3. We have brand winners above 6, losers below 6. And we have, based on the customer acquisition cost, our prospecting winners and losers above or below 50 euros. Now we go to step 4, deriving actions and digging a bit deeper into those campaigns where we see great signals. What do we do? When do we scale? And where we see bad signals? Let's take the next step. Take action for our prospecting campaigns. We will look at those winner campaigns based on a customer acquisition cost below 50 euros and those loser campaigns where our customer acquisition cost is above the target of 50 euros. The first thing we will check is for the current period we select, which is the 2 weeks, against the comparison period if we have massive gains in revenue or massive losses in revenue. What we see here is we have increase in costs of 31%, while we have just a slight gain, so that doesn't seem to be a massive difference. Whereas on the campaign below, we see a massive difference. Let's assume we would increase the costs and we would see a very high gain in revenue as well. Then for that winning campaign, because the CAC is below 50 euros, we need to check exactly 2 things. One, for campaigns that are on social, we need to check in the Meta Ads Manager if we have room to increase the budget or if we already show the user the ad too much, which means we need to check the frequency. If the frequency is already very high on the exposure of the user to one single ad, then it's not likely that you will be able to scale that campaign much further. On the other side, for prospecting campaigns on search, you will need to look in the ad managers on the impression share, which means if you have a very high impression share, you already are getting a lot of impressions of the available ones by a high bidding price. That means if you increase the bidding, you will not necessarily be exposed to more impressions to users, which means the sharing, the scaling of that campaign will be also very limited. So check on both things, one frequency for social and impression share for search. The second part is for those campaigns where you identify winning campaigns with massive gains, you should look at your winning social creatives and diversify those and test with different product or audiences. And if you're able to see that you're able to achieve the same results with a different product or audience fit. Next part, what do we do with campaigns that have a low performance? If we check for the low performing campaigns, we go for the quick selection of our loser view. And here we have all of the campaigns where our CAC is above 50 euros. Here we have one example. So by the reduction of the cost, the revenue increased, but still the CAC is super high. And what we should do here is we should check on 2 things. One, there could be an issue with the click-through rate, which actually points at a poor target audience to ad fit. So the ad we've created might address a different target audience, which leads to a very low click-through rate. The second part will be the conversion rate that will point when it's low at a poor ad to landing page fit. So that's why we have these two metrics in here. So you can see the click-through rate here is actually very low, whereas the conversion rate is high. So in this example, we have a perfect example to look at a low click-through rate, which would lead to a poor target audience to ad fit. That could be the problem that we are facing here. For those campaigns where we have marketing costs but actually no revenue, I see this way too often for the campaigns that are analyzed. You should stop the campaign immediately if the spend was taken on day 1 of our 14-day period, and until day 14 you still see no revenue coming in. Let's look into the winning campaigns for customer remarketing and brand based on the ROAS that's above the target we have set. For customer remarketing, we have built the view here where the ROAS should be above 3, and we see there's one campaign that achieves that goal with a ROAS of 7, and we are spending 500 euros, and we just started the campaign in the last days of March. So what you would do in this example is you would check on the identity and if you can have more products and promotions to test in the campaign for you to increase the reorder rate and ultimately the CLTV. What this means is if you understand what type of products your customers buy on a second and third purchase, you can include those in the same campaign, replicate them, and see if the results will be the same. Once you get signals that these campaigns have a ROAS above the target, then you should increase the spend on your upper funnel prospecting and acquisition campaigns, because that means it's actually worth spending more for those customers, because at the long tail you get them in with a very great CLTV that's proven by the winning ROAS of those campaigns. For brand campaigns, it works a bit different. Here we look at search intent again and the impression share. So if we go into our campaign setup and look for our brand winning campaigns, which has a ROAS above 6, then we have identified a couple of campaigns, and here we already see differences for the metrics of share of new customers, which plays a big role, as well as our cost per 1,000 impressions that I actually like to include in addition here. Why? Because here we also look at the scalability based on the impression share again, as we are speaking about search. So for those ads that have a ROAS above 6, the campaign, and the impression share on the ad platforms is low, while the CPM that you just saw is also low, you should increase the spend because there's more opportunities that don't cost you a lot. Also, if the share of new customers is very low coming over your brand campaigns, while they have a high ROAS, you should increase the search intent, which means you should invest into more first touch points, similar to the winning customer remarketing campaigns, because then you can get them in at a very good price in branding when you increase the consideration by upper funnel and awareness campaigns. That's it for the winning part. Now we move over to loser ROAS campaigns for remarketing and branding. Now let's check for our loser campaigns for remarketing and brand. One action that fits both are on low conversion rates and low click-through rates, as well as you have marketing costs but no revenue. Here you should, for both campaign goals, stop the campaign right away. In the example we can show here, we, for instance, take the remarketing loser ads where the ROAS is below 3. We will see two examples. One where the conversion rate is high, but the click-through rate is low. So low click-through rate, we have it here again. This will point to a poor target audience ad fit. So make sure that you check on that first. For the other campaign, you have the other way around. You have a very low conversion rate, but you have a higher click-through rate. So where the conversion rate is lower, you should check your ad to landing page fit if there are some discrepancy. We see that sometimes there is by mistake just a wrong URL dropped in there, so that your landing page is actually meant for a different ad. That gives you already a signal if that's actually wasting your budget or no. More specific, let's go into the action that you can only take for the customer remarketing, and that's when you see a high share of new customers coming over your remarketing campaigns when the ROAS is below your target ROAS. Usually, if you have a high share of new customers, these are more expensive, which means you will also have a lower ROAS, and that points to an issue with your targeting, because you're actually aiming at purchasing customers that already went through your web shop, and not for new customers that don't know your brand at all. First, for brand, we have two different actions to take. The first one to check would be about competitors and resellers bidding on your branded keywords. Why? Because bidding on your branded keywords also leads to higher CPCs for you, and that lead to lower ROAS. So let's check the branded ROAS, and here you can also include the metric CPC to check if there's something that you see that doesn't make so much sense, where the CPC is way too high. If you see that you have very high CPCs, the action you can take is actually contact your competitors and make a deal agreement with them that you don't compete and include bidding for your competitors' keywords, and also check for your resellers if they actually have a bidding strategy on your brand keyword to make the purchase on their marketplaces instead of your internal web shop. Second option could be that your keyword targeting is too broad. So check if you actually have a broad targeting on your branded keywords. If that's the case, you might want to change, because that also leads to very high CPCs and therefore a bad ROAS. That was a very, very quick rundown on all of the actions you can take. Check the article that comes with this video to go through each step, step by step. Take your time, and if you would like to get some assistance on how to optimize for your specific case, also to set your targets and whatnot, you can always reach out and we are going to help you for sure.